a week or less using AI and primarily one virtual assistant. I love to share about how to use VAs in your investing business because it really was the #1 shift that led to my success as a real estate agent and as an investor. Hiring a VA really allowed me to step out of the day-to-day, start streamlining operations, and ultimately create the freedom to travel the world with my family while my business continues to grow. So, quick pop quiz for you. Listen up, type your answer in the chat. How many hours last week did you spend doing tasks in your business that you could have paid somebody $8 an hour to do? Again, quick pop quiz off the top of your head. How many hours last week did you spend doing tasks in your business that you could have paid somebody $8 an hour to do? At least 10 seems to be a little bit of a trend here. Yeah. Too many. I know, I feel you on that. So thank you guys for being honest and dropping a number. And here's the kicker. I know we're going to have some uncomfortable truths, but we kind of need those to change and grow and evolve, right? Every one of those hours, it didn't just cost you the $8 an hour that you would have paid a VA. It cost you your CEO level income, because if your time is worth $100, $200, $500 an hour, those cheap tasks are secretly the most expensive hours of your week, because they're not costing you $8 an hour. They're costing you $100, $200, $500, whatever you are worth and could be making. And that's really the emergency that we're going to work to solve today. Most investors are bleeding freedom and profit right now doing these low-level tasks. And this class is about how to stop that bleed fast by pairing a VA with AI the right way and get you out of those $8 an hour tasks, okay? So for those of you who are new and I haven't had the pleasure of getting to know you yet, I wanted to share a little bit about myself and how I can help you do this. So first off, I'm a real estate investor myself who uses VAs and AI. In terms of my investing, I have long-term rentals, short-term rentals, and private money lending, plus some passive investments as well. Now, with VAs, part of my investor journey was that I was an active real estate agent, and I actually scaled and sold a real estate agent business that was using VAs for all of the back-end operations. And that was a key reason that that was a saleable business. Now I run a VA staffing agency along with my husband. And so in addition to using VAs myself for my investing business and other businesses, I also get to see kind of behind the curtain for other entrepreneurs and how they work with VAs as well. So I have all of this experience with VAs that I'm hoping can help you during our hour together here. Now, again, if you don't know me, this allows me to travel the world full-time with my family while I'm doing all of this. Here's a photo of me and my kids from this summer at a storybook castle outside of Cardiff, Wales. It's one of the many amazing places we've been able to visit during our 1.5 years so far of full-time travel. Now, what are you going to walk away with today? What am I hoping we'll cover? First, how you're going to pair an AI and VA for this leverage. I'm going to walk through my go-to tech stack. I'm going to give you a lot of the actual tools that we use. And we're going to go through some simple, scalable systems. So even if you're not super techie and you're like, oh my gosh, I've never touched AI yet, we're going to give you some things that are really simple to start with, which gets to the next part, where to start. Even if you feel like you're behind the 8 ball with AI right now, you're not. It's okay. And the truth is, it keeps evolving. So whenever you start is the right time. Now, the truth is, and I want you to, that doing it all is a lie. Doing it all is a lie, and it's really costing you big. And we need to acknowledge this if we're going to make a difference. The truth is, every investor I talked to started investing for freedom. It might have been financial freedom, it might have been time freedom, it might have been location freedom, but you want freedom. You did not start investing to be the one doing every task, solving every problem that comes up, and working overtime on your nights and weekends to keep it afloat. And yet, you may be doing that. It sounds like you guys are 10, 25 hours doing these $8 an hour tasks. And doing it all isn't noble. It's really the #1 thing that's holding your business back, because you're losing money every time you spend your hours on tasks a VA could handle for $8 an hour. You're bottlenecking your growth because you are the whole system. And you're, like I said before, you're not just spending the $8 an hour. What you're really losing is the time that have closed your next deal, the time to double your portfolio, or even just the time to be home with your family for dinner. And you didn't become an investor to be an admin assistant. And yet, so often we find ourselves in that role. And what's one of the worst things about that? I mean, yeah, it's like we're not getting growth, but one of the worst things is that you're really training your family or your loved ones that you're too busy to be with them, right? You're skipping birthday parties, maybe cutting vacations short or spending it on the phone. Those are the hidden costs of not leveraging a virtual assistant and AI. So let's talk about how to solve that today. You don't just want to hire a VA. That's a great step, but we're going to make it even better by empowering them with AI. So I want you to think about and drop in the chat, if you could wave a magic wand, what's one thing you'd have your VA do faster? For those of you with VAs, if you're like, oh my gosh, they spend 8 hours a week doing X, and if I could get that down to 2 so they could do more for me, drop that in the chat, okay? And this is a problem I see entrepreneurs doing all the time. They're not leveraging AI tools to amplify their VA's time and input. You guys probably see that, and that's why you're here today. So hiring a VA without AI is like giving someone a shovel when you could have handed them a backhoe. When you combine your VA with AI's speed and precision, you're really going to have magic happen in your investing business. I know we all worry about AI replacing humans. And the thing is, AI isn't here to replace your VA. It's here to supercharge them. What used to take my VA hours for managing guest replies or drafting emails or creating marketing for properties now can take them just minutes with AI. So instead of spending more to hire more people, I'm able to train my current VAs to use AI like a power tool. And if you guys have ever used a shovel or ever used a backhoe, you know the difference in what you can get done per hour with these different tools, right? So what about you? Let's test this right now. So answer in the chat, yes or no. Right now, is your VA empowered with AI tools that help them double or even triple their output? Is your VA empowered with AI tools to double or triple their output? If you feel confident and you're a yes, then I'd love for you to share those as we go through. If you're a no, well, then we're gonna help you here, okay? Because if your answer is no, here's the reality. You're paying for half of a VA and yet you're footing the full bill every month. And worse, you're teaching yourself that it doesn't work when in reality, it's the system that's broken and that we're gonna fix. Okay, so hiring a VA without AI, I just want you to think about that's a shovel. And once we get them AI, it's like you've given them a backhoe. Think of everything that they're going to do. Okay, we're going to save you that money that you are otherwise spending with them not being as effective. So here is an example of some of the ways that they can help and what I do in my own real estate investing business. Here's a few tasks and how it used to be when I was doing it myself, like some of you are who don't have a VA yet. And I want to give you a vision of what's possible. So when we look at first guest and contractor communication, between my long-term rentals and my short-term rentals, I could easily spend a few hours a day buried in messages, dealing with guests asking about check-in or a handyman coordinating parts for their next visit. It could be constant, especially during summer, which was the high season for my short-term rentals. But now, my VA handles about 99% of that. And AI tools like ChatGPT to help draft responses help them do that faster and better so that nothing's falling through the cracks. And to be honest, it's getting done better than when I was doing it myself before AI existed. Then if we think about bookkeeping and accounting, which is a common pain point, QuickBooks, I felt like I was always behind. I always needed to spend 1 or 2 hours a week. And let's be honest, that often was on my to-do list still at the end of the week rather than my done list. Now my VA handles all of the entries. And here's what's really cool. AI can help them make sure that they're doing that properly. And then AI can summarize monthly trends so I can review them at the end of the month easily like a CEO for a business, not like a bookkeeper getting caught in the weeds. The third thing I want to highlight here is maintenance coordination. It used to be chaos. Again, different communication. I put off handling it until something broke completely because it was all on me, and doing routine maintenance was a wish list rather than a reality. Now we use a project management system that handles reminders. My VA schedules vendors. And the cool thing with AI that makes this even more powerful and takes me out of it is sometimes if you have a VA, you realize that VAs may not understand or may not have the experience of what our house is like wherever your property is, right? With the drywall, there could be different building styles, even within the US, right? A property in Arizona isn't going to be the same as one we see in the Northeast, like in Maine with snow and everything like that, right? Houses are going to be built differently. And so you might find that your VA has a hard time understanding that. But AI can help them troubleshoot issues with the house. AI can help them evaluate bids and estimates and see what is reasonable, what's not. And it can even help them find new contractors when needed. And that's something that I've been using myself so my VA can really be doing everything in these roles. And here's the thing, when you're using AI and tech, you don't need a big team to make this work. This is primarily me and one VA. I've got another little bookkeeper VA and one guy who does my graphics, but it's primarily me and one VA. So I want to next introduce you to Sarah, the overwhelmed investor. Sarah has 4 doors that are short and midterm rentals. And when Sarah came to me, she had a VA, but it felt like babysitting, right? Tasks half done, missed messages, and she felt like she just hired another problem or another obligation, which may sound familiar to some of you. So I'm going to show you the system that changed everything. We created these 3 pillars that leveraged her virtual assistant plus AI to really lighten Sarah's load. We rebuilt her business foundation, and we started and created these pillars not based on the tools, but based on the problems and how we could solve them. So she needed organization, she needed simplicity, and this is what we did to accomplish that. First, we did inbox domination. With these tools and their AI components, Sarah's VA was able to be the first point of contact for guests, tenants, cleaners, and contractors. Then we moved on to process perfection. I taught Sarah a process where she could record how she did something on her computer, and then her VA could get the transcript, write a procedure in just a few minutes using ChatGPT, and then that task could become a recurring task on her project management system, Monday.com, reminding the VA to complete it every time it needed to be done and tracking the progress. I have a quick start tech guide that walks you through the exact tech and how to do it for this, and I'm giving it away as a bonus, and I'm going to show you at the end, okay? And then the third column or pillar we focused on was instant insight, because that's part of the thing is that as investors, we want to know and be able to see what's going on in the business fast. So Sarah's VA was able to get quick insights on her business finances and other systems using a custom GPT that we created in ChatGPT that was trained to be her business analyst panel of experts. Now imagine if Sarah hadn't done this and kept doing things the old way. She'd still be drowning in her inbox today. And that's exactly where you may be in 3 months if you don't change as well, right? So let's go through how you can do this in your own business. So first, let's look at this inbox domination. Sarah's inbox used to be a prison, right? Guests, tenants, contractors, they're pinging her constantly between email and text messages. She was chained to her phone. But the fix was simple using some tools with AI. First, we set up a shared phone line for Sarah using OpenPhone. This was her property management, real estate investing phone number. And all calls and texts were able to be answered by her VA during their working hours. Now, Sarah personally wanted to continue to oversee and make sure that nothing was falling through the cracks. And one of the great things about OpenPhone is Sarah could still see everything, see those calls, see those texts, and yet not have to handle it herself. Her VA was. The next thing that we set up for her was a shared email. Again, she wanted to see these things because that was her comfort zone, and yet she wanted her VA to handle it. So we set up a service at herinvestingcompany.com. And so those were able to go to Sarah and her VA as well. So guests, vendors, they weren't using her personal inbox. She wasn't having to forward or get in the middle. They just went straight to her VA who handled it. Now, how did her VA handle these phone calls and emails? Well, AI helped a ton, right? It helped draft replies, and we were able to create these custom GPTs that were trained on her investing business so it could give intelligent answers. And then at the end of the day, Sarah got one summary of everything that happened. So again, she could feel like she knew what was going on and nothing was falling through the cracks. The great thing was, instead of reacting and getting in the weeds of all this all day long, she was able to just check this summary message once a day and stay really in that high-level CEO role for her investing. So now, Steph, we're going to get into column 2, that process perfection that'll help you. I like to call it the 10-minute SOP system. And I want you to think about right now, off the top of your head, what's one thing you'd want a VA to handle ASAP right when they started working for you? Okay. What is like, oh my goodness, this is my pain point I'd love to hand off. So here's what changed everything for Sarah. Instead of writing SOPs or training in real time, because I hear common pain point is people are like, I don't want to have to spend countless hours in video calls with the VA so they know what to do. All that Sarah had to do was step 1 of this process, which was record it once. She recorded herself doing the task once using any number of tools to screen share and record on the computer. And after that, her VA did step 2, which is take the transcript of that recording and use ChatGPT to turn it into a clean, repeatable SOP in really just a few minutes. And then her VA added it to their project management system as a recurring task with a checklist and a due date. Every task then had a process with that SOP or procedure, and every process had the system in the project management system so that it didn't fall through the cracks. It wasn't just a procedure sitting somewhere, never being done. The project management system was making sure it got done. And the best part is she only had to explain it once. So I wanted to show you guys how real this is. My VAs are in the Philippines, and in January, I had the pleasure of going to the Philippines and meeting them in person. So this is me with my property management executive assistant right-hand VA, Noe, who's on this call and helping me lead through this as well as doing everything else he does so well. Let me show you some examples of what this process perfection looks like. This is an example of my property management board in my project management system of Monday.com. This is where work is assigned, it's tracked, and recurring tasks are automated so that nothing falls through the cracks. For the procedures or SOPs, I use Google Workspace for them all to be saved there, and they're linked. My Monday.com task just has a link that can be clicked on that pulls up that procedure. This is the written procedure that ChatGPT can help you write. And then as a pro tip, this is something that is so powerful for these tasks. What I love about the project management system is you can put updates as the task's being done, or your VA can, right? This is what I did, this is where we stand. And one of the hard and fast rules and non-negotiable in my business is that when a task is marked done, there has to be a screenshot in those updates 100% of the time. If it's not done. And this is a really small habit that helps a lot. First, it makes it so that if you do want to review this task, right, if you do want to inspect what you expect, it's quick and easy. You're not going into whatever systems the work was being done. You can just click on that screenshot and see the details. And 2, it's accountability, right? It's accountability for the virtual assistant that they know they're going to need to show visual proof that this task was done. As real estate investors, we know the power of accountability. We know the power of having accountability groups, accountability partners, of having to report to someone that it was done. And that's what this accomplishes to help your VA be their best. So that was a lot for that process pillar, I know. And let's move on to the last one, which really excited people in our call yesterday, instant insight. So in the chat, go ahead and drop a little magnifying glass if you would love a weekly CEO report instead of digging through spreadsheets or looking for data in different places, right? And For Sarah, she didn't just need, a bookkeeper to get her accounts up to date. She needed insight on her business finances, among other things. So we set up a custom GPT that was trained to act like her business analyst panel of experts. And here's how it works. Her VA would pull numbers, updates, reports from QuickBooks or from some boards that they had in Monday.com, from her booking platforms like Hospitable, and even from open phone logs, and drop it all into this custom GPT that was trained so that instead of piecing all this information together manually, Sarah could just look at the report that the custom GPT spit out from all of this data. So every Friday, Sarah now gets a single CEO report of what worked this week, what's off track or at risk, and what her next opportunity is. She's not logging into all these different systems. She's not going into QuickBooks to see her net income. It's all created in a high-level report thanks to her virtual assistant using this technology at a high level. So because we did those 3 pillars and it made such a big difference, we were able to then move on to a bonus, which I know is a big pain point for a lot of other investors. Sarah was able to hand off social media. So quick poll in the chat again, how many hours a week do you spend or avoid spending or should spend on social media for your investing business? So many investors I know, they want to be on there to network, to learn from others, to connect with either possible investors or possible borrowers or things like that, right? And possible sellers. Too many hours avoided, should do 10. The great thing is this is something with technology where it is that's easier than ever to hand off to a virtual assistant. So that's what we did. And this is how the process worked high level. Sarah had images or videos that she would make, and she would either save them in Google Drive, or if it was a video, she recorded it in Riverside and it just lived there. And so her VA could get it from there and use a custom GPT to design the posts and draft the captions. We trained this GPT with who Sarah wanted to reach out to, what Sarah's voice was like. And so the virtual assistant was able to take that content, and the GPT was able to help really draft everything that went with it. One of the things that helps with this a lot is when you have the transcripts for videos, which if you record in Riverside, they automatically create the transcript. A lot of other tools do as well. So now Sarah's VA had the original content. They had the post, the caption, all the details. If they needed to edit any videos, they could do that. Again, AI tools are making that faster and easier than ever. And then scheduled it to be posted in Metricool. And then all of those things are always recorded in Monday as being done. So Sarah could rest easy knowing that her Monday reel was going out and her Tuesday carousel post was scheduled to be done and everything else that she wanted to go out. So that was everything. And her audience was able to grow while Sarah slept. Isn't that the dream? Now, Steph, the VA using to edit video. So Riverside has a lot of built-in video editing tools that are really powerful. Another tool that I recommend is CapCut Pro. I do recommend getting the Pro version of that. CapCut, you probably have seen or heard of it. It's pretty popular. But between Riverside and CapCut Pro, I think you can accomplish pretty much everything you want in terms of video editing. So those were really 4 different pillars that we were able to set up that walk you through some examples and give you a vision of how a virtual assistant and AI can work together. So you've seen how Sarah went from inbox chaos to 1 daily summary, how she stopped wasting hours documenting tasks, and her VA was able to build SOPs in minutes. And then Sarah was able to start making CEO level decisions with weekly insights without digging through spreadsheets. But if you're still stretched thin today, and you don't make any differences, none of this is going to change your business. If you don't take action, you'll still be drowning in $8 an hour tasks 6 months from now. So I'm curious, which of these do you feel like is a fit for you? And you can go ahead and drop it in the chat, 1, 2, or 3. So 1 is, are you still solo and stretched thin where you're wearing every hat? You wake up to those pleasant texts from tenants. You end your night entering stuff onto QuickBooks and uploading receipts. Maybe you spend your weekends fixing what was broke. You started investing for freedom, but right now it feels like another 9 to 5. Or maybe you're at 2, where you've got a VA, but it can feel like babysitting, right? You thought it would buy back your time, but instead you have half-done tasks. You're always having to catch mistakes. You're frustrated, and you may even be burned by the whole idea of VAs or have had a VA fail. And then 3, maybe you're ready to step into the CEO role. You're past survival mode. You know your business should run without you in the weeds, but you don't have the framework to step out yet. You're ready, but you need some help to get there. Well, we're going to choose your VA adventure. Here's the exciting part. For each one of those situations, I have a solution. I'm going to walk you through them one by one. All you need to do is pick the path that fits your situation, and you'll know exactly what your next move is. So if you already have a VA, the Pro VA system is how you finally get them off your back and into the driver's seat, handling a lot of your business operations. So inside this Pro VA system, and this is a course you buy for your virtual assistant to do, okay? This is training for them. And I'm going to give them the exact training to handle SOPs, to use AI tools, and really to start have executive level functioning so that they are thinking high level, so they're thinking big picture, and so they're having accountability. And to make sure that they can succeed fast and you can get them going right now, if you purchase this course today only before midnight, I'm going to give you these 2 extra bonus tools. And these are true for all of the options today. We have the Quick Start Tech Guide, which is the exact tools I use to capture, create, and systemize processes, walking you through here's how you can capture them, here's how you can transcribe them, and here's how you can make them into an SOP and get them into your business. And second, the Delegation Decoder Worksheet, which matches different tasks to the tools instantly, so your VA knows exactly what tools they need to solve that problem. And to make your decision even easier, for being here today, you're going to get $100 off this course through Sunday night. The link for all of these are in the chat as well, so you're not having to try and type them in. You just copy and paste it from the chat. Now, what about the path that may be better for some of you? And that's the Launchpad Live. This is my course where I take you step by step from being completely overwhelmed to having your VA hired, trained, and producing results within your business. My next course launch, because we do this live, is going to be in 2 weeks. And so I'm opening seats tomorrow. And so when we do, I'm going to release the early bird specials, and that's going to be the best deal I ever have. So if you sign up for the waiting list right now, you're going to get those today only bonuses if you sign up today. And then the early bird specials for this course are going to launch tomorrow. So there's the link. Again, it's in the chat. So if you don't have a VA yet and you want to work with me over the next 8 weeks in a group course to take you from no VA to VA in your business, this is the path for you. Tomorrow, when the doors open, you'll be at the front of the line in this waiting list, and you'll know that you're getting the very best deal I'll ever have available for the Launchpad Live. Are you guys ready for the third and final option? If you need relief like yesterday, Workergenics is my done-for-you staffing agency. It's the fast track. We find, vet, and train your VA for you, so you skip the hiring headaches and you get a VA who's ready to go fast. Everything is done for you, and you buy back your time immediately. And again, if you sign up for this starting tonight or today before midnight, you're going to grab these bonuses as well. We'll email them to you tomorrow. Now, here's the catch for this. If you sign up this month, we're going to give you 25% off your first month, but we only have spots for another 5 clients this month. All right. So if you want to take advantage of that, you're going to go to this, you're going to get a free guide to get you started, and you're going to schedule your consult call to get started. So choose your VA adventure. These are your 3 choices. To recap, if you already have a VA, the Pro VA system is going to transform them. If you're ready to finally hire and onboard the right way, Launchpad Live is your best fit. And if you need relief yesterday, Workergenics Done For You Staffing is going to get you there fastest. And to recap everything we went through today, guys, you saw how Sarah went from having a VA and yet feeling like she was babysitting to one daily summary and having faith and being able to see that everything else was handled, from spreadsheets and caught in the weeds to CEO level insights. And here's the truth. If nothing changes for you in your business, 6 months from now, you could be on this same masterclass and still be saying that you're spending 10, 15, 20, 25 hours on $8 an hour tasks, which we know are really costing you whatever your time is worth, $100, $200, $500 an hour, right? Or you could be free with a VA and systems that are helping run the show. And that's what these 3 different paths give you based on your situation. So my question would be, which path is yours? And with that in mind, let's go ahead and open it up. What questions do you have about these systems, about the offerings, about your next step, about VAs and AI? And don't worry, the links are in the chat, so you can grab your spot if one of these is the right fit for you while we talk. I know in yesterday's class, some people were asking about specific tools, specific insights, anything like that. So I know it was a lot to throw at you, and yet I'd love to help you make sure that this is working for you.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the Workergenics program?
Sure. Yeah, so Terry, Workergenics is a full-service virtual staffing agency. So it is kind of like sorry, I feel like I was going to say one thing and it changed, but it's pretty much like it's a monthly subscription where we have an initial consult call, you describe what you want, and from there, we handle everything to get this virtual assistant. So it's like your own hiring and HR department. So you come in, you say, hey, I want somebody who's really going to do, let's say these 3 things, right? Somebody who's going to handle all my messaging for all my properties, who's going to handle all these processes, create these SOPs, who's going to give me this weekly insight, and who's going to do my social media, right? And you're going to have some specifics based off of yours, like how the kind of investing that you do and everything. So you just say that, and we take that and we handle everything. We make the job description, we then make the job listing, we do the interview vetting, and all of this, by the way, we do using AI and a lot of tech on the back end as well, because my husband is a computer engineer by training, and so this is what we do full time. So I feel like we're kind of experts at it. So we find and say, hey, Terry, this is Jane. Jane is a VA who is specifically picked for your job description, for you, for your situation, your personality, to be a great fit for you. And so then we put Jane through initial training about a week to make sure that she can show up, get through that training, and also to set her up to be a great virtual assistant or virtual executive assistant, I'd like to say, and really be your right hand. This whole process takes typically about 3 weeks for most people between the interviewing, the vetting, onboarding, and then they're ready to start working for you in your business. And so all you pay is a monthly fee. It's $1,979 a month for 40 hours a week, English, fluent in English, college educated, experienced in your field person to come work in your business. And that breaks down to about $11 and change an hour. So, and then we continue to provide support. So you just pay your monthly fee to us. You can put it on a credit card, however it is. It just shows up as a bill. You can even set up recurring payments, I think. And as long as the virtual assistant is continuing to add value to your business, you continue month to month. No extra fees, no setup, no contracts, anything like that. And then we also do continue to provide support. If there's ever issues, we can come alongside you and help and support you through that.
What if you only needed a part-time VA?
That is a common question. And here's the situation with that. When we started with 20-hour and 40-hour a week options. This was about 3.5 years ago. And in case you can't tell yet, I love data and KPIs. And we thought, hey, the theory was people will start 20 hours a week. And as they get used to it, they'll either stay there or maybe some people will leverage up to 40 hours a week. Only one client ever went from 20 to 40. And what we saw instead was people who signed up for 20 hours a week quit a lot sooner, a lot faster than those people who had 40 hours a week. So we stopped offering the 20-hour-a-week program because we found that most entrepreneurs and business owners, if you're doing this full time, the truth is you have 40 hours of admin and operations work that you could hand off, right? You may not be doing it all now, but between what you are doing and what you maybe should be doing in your business, there's going to be 40 hours a week of admin work to hand off. And those people who signed up for 20 hours a week just didn't commit to training or handing off things to the virtual assistant, and they didn't get the benefit from using the system.
Thank you.
And I get that question all the time. So I'm so glad you asked it, because I'm sure someone else was thinking it.
I was. Hey, Terry. Terry's the one that dragged me here, so I'm thankful for her.
Awesome.
Is there like a list of the things that you listed, some of the items like the social media and things like that, but I tried a VA for a couple of weeks from the Philippines. Just had a lot of problems with it. Almost seemed like two things. One is that she might have had multiple clients. And the other thing is that it almost seemed like there was somebody maybe behind the scenes doing the work. And let me give you an example. I had her start with the QuickBooks, and we would be on chat all day. She would ask questions. I'd say, hey, I want this converted, and I want this to be stated this way or done this way. And it would be done. She'd send me a report and it'd look good. Well, then 1 to 2 days later, we'd make some other changes. I'd ask for another report, and then things were switched back. And so I started to wonder if maybe there were multiple VAs working, doing the work of what I requested, and they just weren't in sync. And that was really problematic for me, because it happened several times before. I was like, wait, if I look through my notes, I see I've already talked to her about this twice. We're on the third time. What's going on? So I don't know if you have any suggestions to help out with that.
Yes. And those are two things that happen. So the first one you talked about, the multiple jobs, it is definitely something that can happen, right? And it's not, there are VA fails, right? That's why I do this, because it was really impactful for my business and to bring in a virtual assistant. And yet, like, I had all those VA fails. And so I hope to help people solve those as much as possible. So one of the things that we do with people potentially doing multiple jobs, or similarly like sleeping on the job because they're often working the graveyard shift, is I have a rule that if I personally, my messaging system that I use is Google Chat. Whatever messaging system you use to interact with them throughout the day, email, chat, text, whatever you choose, that they are expected to respond within 15 minutes, right? I'm like, if they needed a bathroom break, if they needed to step out, that happens, but typically 15 minutes should be reasonable for that. So that's one of our rules. And this is something we have in Workergenics, if they're taking over 15 minutes to respond to something, we have a whole like strike system kind of thing to help curb any behavior like that. So that's something that I would put in. And what I recommend doing is having a contract when you hire somebody, and that could be a point in the contract, right? They're going to respond within 15 minutes. Now, asterisk on this, if you're like, well, is a contract enforceable in the Philippines? No, or not easily. And yet this creates kind of it's more about having an understanding, and that we agree very explicitly that this is how we're going to run things. Okay. So that's one of the things, is I would have that 15-minute response time. It helps keep them from doing multiple jobs. Also having this project management system and being really, the way that you interview and vet somebody shows them how serious you're going to be, and if they're going to be able to get away with having multiple jobs. That's the other thing, right? The more professional you come across, if you're checking references, things like that, if they're wanting to try and game the system and you seem like you're not going to be gamed, they're going to disappear. Okay. So those are a couple things I'd say for that issue. For the multiple people doing the work, I've heard of that a few times. And what I think is you get like one Filipino who's very entrepreneurial, and they maybe have a Fiverr listing or something like that, and they're out getting the jobs, and then they're just subbing it out to other people. We never do anything like that on any of our stuff, because I mean, if to use that same Jane the VA, if Jane the VA is working for Terry, it's Jane the VA who's doing the work, right? 100%. And so the best way I would say is maybe ask about that in the interview. I don't see it happen a ton. Or as soon as you see that that's happening, ask about it, right? Now, everybody's on this call at least knows that it can happen. Be like, hey, did you do this work or is somebody else doing it? It is something, again, you could ask in the interview and just be clear. And in that contract, you are the one doing this work. It is not being subbed out or anyone else is doing it. And if that is the case, it is grounds for immediate dismissal. I would, in that situation, if it's clear they're supposed to be doing the work, that would be grounds for immediate dismissal in my world.
Okay. Yeah, mine fell asleep. Didn't answer for quite a long time. So yeah. All right. Thank you.
And in hiring in general, it's really tough. I mean, this isn't limited to VAs. If you've ever hired anyone, you know how difficult it is to get what you might call like an A player, right? A players are going to be the minority. You're going to have a lot of B players. You're going to have a lot of B players. And so we really strive as much as possible to get those A players. If you've got a B player and they work the graveyard shift, maybe once in a blue moon, they're going to lay down on their lunch break and not wake up at the end of it, or something like that. But they're going to feel really bad. If they at least, meanwhile, they're going to feel really bad and they're going to make up the hours somewhere else, and it's not going to happen again. That's something where if they're a good person, it happens once and they make sure it never happens again. Great question, Steph. I appreciate your sharing that.
Yeah, that was awesome, Steph. And thanks to both of you for your insights. I have a question. So I've had now my first VA for a little over a month. And I think where I'm at is I had, tracked all of these things, right? Like stacked of all these things that I need done. I've got a mega pipeline, but I still feel like I'm in the babysitting stage because I've never done this before. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to, create this pipeline. And some of these things are now SOPs that like when they come into my world again, theoretically they should be handled, right? But then other things are like more hands-on and then other things are not, right? Especially with AI involved in the world that we live in now, right? So I guess my question is, how would you think about setting expectations early, knowing that there's going to be a full 40 hours, right? And it might not feel like that right now,
right?
But it's coming, right? And I feel it because I'm like, it's another job to like make sure that I'm, putting stuff into the pipeline that wasn't getting taken care of, right? Like there's certain things that have been taken off my plate, but so far, most of the things I've focused on are things that needed to be happening in my businesses that just weren't, right? And so I think at the end of the day, like maybe setting the expectation and the tone to say, hey, there's going to be a lot more going on soon enough, and also sort of set the stage for empowerment during that period of time to get the VA excited rather than like, oh, this is how it's going to be. That's cool. Like I have no idea how they really feel. You know what I mean? I have an idea, but not really. Does that all make sense?
I think so. So I think there's a lot that Christian shared that could be helpful for everybody on the call. So first, what he has tried to do is hand off stuff off of his plate first, which is fabulous because that's when you're going to get the most immediate time return back. And he's also handed off stuff that he didn't ever have time to do, but needed to be done. And so that can sometimes be a great thing to hand off. Like it should be handed off eventually. Where depends on how easy it is to hand off something that you don't do yourself yet. And then the challenge is he may feel like it's not 40 hours yet of consistent repeat tasks because that VA's responsibilities are still being fleshed out, right? What I like to do in that stage is have them start to do training during the rest of the time in things that they're going to do. So, and the way I handle that in terms of the task management system is, at least in Monday.com, or whatever task management system you use, there's a priority column, or you can often set up a priority column if you do, like low, medium, and high. So the tasks that are like mission critical, that are the operation stuff that you've already handed off, Christian, like I'd make sure that's all like high priority task. And then I would put in as medium or low priority. Like what I personally did is like I use my Noe, who's here, he handles like my consulting and coaching in these courses, right? And I run all of that on the Kajabi platform. And so when Noe started, I was like, I'm just going to give you some background tasks of like, you could do it a couple different ways. I went on to like YouTube because I knew there were like some go-to Kajabi people on YouTube. And so I was like, go to these channels, watch some videos. This is specifically kind of where I like the things I want you to start building your knowledge of, right? But you could also, if you don't even like know anyone, you could also just be like, hey, go to YouTube, find some videos on this task, and pop in, in the task, put the video and give me like 3 takeaways from each. Like when you watch these, I want you to have the link to the video and 3 takeaways from each video. Something like that, so that you're incentivizing them to pay attention and learn it. But that's one of the things you can do to help make sure that they are not, because yeah, you don't want to have them only doing 20 hours a week right now and get used to like coasting when you know that's not going to be the way it is. So I like to give them some training tasks or some things like that. But especially at the beginning, I like it to be structured, right? Because virtual assistants in general, people in general, right? They do better, especially at the beginning. They don't know you so well yet. They need some guardrails and some guidance of like, what's the goal here? So I wouldn't just say, learn about Kajabi in this example. I'd be like, hey, I want you to learn about Kajabi. This is kind of what my business looks like. It takes maybe 5 minutes to write this out. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to post the video. You're going to write those comments. So give them a little bit of guardrails, a little bit of guidance of what winning looks like in that task, and let them start to do some research or some learning about it. And I would say the resources I would rely on for stuff like that is ChatGPT and YouTube. And it could also be if you've got a problem and you haven't had time to solve it. So for example, I needed a new couch in a short-term rental. So I was like, that's something where it's like, I have no idea. Like this was, my VA had been with me for a couple months and I was like, hey, the accounts where we typically buy stuff, right? I'm just going to tell you, this is a big living room. Like these are some details. I want it to be easy to clean. I want these details. Just go find some couches and give me a list, right? This is the rough amount I want to spend. So they can even start to do some stuff from your to-do list that's just like research and gathering information so that you can be more informed.
Great.
Great questions. You guys have had fabulous questions. I know we got a few other people on this call. Feel free to come off mute and share what you'd like. I know we got another Terry, Stephanie, a lot of repeat names. Brandon. What I love is when people realize like Steph's situation, she had this bad hire, and yet we want to make sure we don't just say, oh, we're never going to hire again, right? It's kind of like that's something that is a trap people can fall into. So like Steph, gold star for being here, not just, turning away entirely. But I think about that and I'm like, if you ever, I have been married for a long time now. And yet, if you went on a bad date, right, you would never be like, oh, I'm never dating again, right? You just realized it was that person. That was not a match. And yet you go on another date, right? So I'd say the same thing. If you guys have a, less than stellar past experience with a virtual assistant, realize it's not all of them. It's not all Filipinos either. There are some absolutely fabulous, amazing virtual assistants and, virtual executive assistants and Filipinos out there who could really make a difference in your business. But just like dating, not every date is going to be someone you're going to marry.
So I have another question, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I took your VA Launchpad course. It was amazing. And I hired a VA after doing it. But like Christian was saying, I felt like I was babysitting a little bit. And then maybe if I would have prepared a little bit more ahead of time, maybe had some of my SOPs developed out and some of the tasking developed before I brought on that person, I would have had a little bit more breathing room. But we were doing bookkeeping and I needed to get my taxes done. So I just jumped in head first. And it was the same VA that I shared with Stephanie. So I had the same experience that she did. But I want to try it again. I want to hire another person and use the systems that you built in the VA Launchpad. Do you think it would be better to go in there and build out like 3 or 4 tasks ahead of time and SOPs on my own, and then bring in the person so they have something to do and we can get some momentum? I don't know.
I think yeah, for your situation, knowing you, Terry, I think that could be helpful. And, especially, what I gave you before is that same, I think it's very similar to like the quick start tech guide. That's one of these bonuses here for people signing up today, where it walks through like, here's how you record how you're doing a task. Here's how you can get the transcript, like a transcription tool. Then you pop that into ChatGPT and it writes a pretty solid SOP, right? I like to go through and format it the way I like SOPs to be formatted. And I like to throw some screenshots in as, graphics and guidance, but it really does a lot for you. So I think, knowing that you've got that resource, doing that could definitely help. And then you give the VA like, hey, here's the SOP, the draft SOP, right? Here's the video and the transcript. Read the SOP, watch the video, and, tweak the SOP as you watch the video, make sure it's spot on. But then they're able to hit the ground running from that, right? That's what I would say is maybe you do that. And what I started with really was I had a Google sheet of here's all the steps that I do in this process. And as I would do each one that I thought my virtual assistant could do for me, right? If it was on the computer or on the phone, I did exactly what that quick start and what we talked about with that process pillar. I just recorded a video of myself doing it. And that was pre-AI because I was doing this back in 2021. And so my VA had to watch the video and write out the entire procedure by hand from that video. So now using ChatGPT, it's so much easier. And so I'd say, yeah, with that process, having some of those ready to go would maybe lessen the burden on you as they got started and start to give them some stuff right away. And I would focus on things that you like to have done every day or every week. Because that way you pass off one daily task, well, they're doing it 5 times that week. You pass off one weekly task, they're doing it every week. And so you're going to start to feel that relief faster.
Thanks.
Yeah. The other thing I throw out that made me think of, kind of like what Christian was saying, and Terry, this could help you too, is let's say there's something that you're not doing yet. Right? Let's say social media is an example, right? But you could give a vision of, hey, what would it take for us to do, if you're not doing any social media yet, right? I would start with like, what would it take for us to do 3 posts a week, right? And maybe you give them a vision of, hey, I do a lot of videos, or I don't do videos, right? Whatever your situation is, I can commit to giving you 3 sets of photos of houses, right? Or 3 videos where I'm talking about my investing or whatever that situation is. And you can ask them to use ChatGPT and come up with a system where they could go by and do that. So that's something else as well. With ChatGPT and YouTube, I feel like anybody can learn almost anything these days. And so knowing, Terry, that you are that DI personality, you're not the one who wants to write procedures or create that world. You can maybe just create these tasks of, here is what I want done. Here's the vision of where I want it to go. And I want you as my VA, and you get that more CVA, that more like calculating engineering type VA. You say, I want you to make a draft procedure. Like, you come up with the flow, run the flow by me. I'm going to say, yeah, that's what I want or not. Like, this is, and then you're going to write a procedure based on that workflow. And then you're going to execute it every week. That might be easier for you, or it might be a good complement to help them get them more hours faster without it feeling like it's falling on you to like record a lot of stuff and make a lot of procedures.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys, we got 5 minutes left till the top of the hour. We've had fabulous questions, so keep them coming. What else can I help you with? If there was anything in the chat that I missed.
I'm curious. I just learned about in Microsoft Teams about the loop function, which is you use Microsoft Loop, and it's it creates like a conversation, but you can create like a checklist, and then people can go back to that and then check things off, etc. It's actually a really neat thing. I wonder if chat does anything like that. You mentioned the Google Chat, because one of the problems that I did have when I was using the Google Chat is going back and looking at, okay, I gave that person instructions, but she's asking me questions that should have been in those instructions above. And how, like making groupings, I guess, of those conversations,
right,
versus just a running list of, hey, I have this cool question. Well, that's great. But did you go back and look
Right.
at a previous conversation we had, that takes time away from me. And that goes back to
Oh,
that babysitting. It's like, hey, I gave you this information or these instructions. Why are you not taking that into consideration or going and looking? So I don't know if there's anything like that. Or if maybe you use Monday.com to maybe put some of that information in. I use a similar product. It's called Smartsheet. I've used Wrike. I've used other things. I've dabbled in Monday.com, so I'm pretty sure it's very similar. But I wonder if you've ever tried anything like that, so that those questions can be answered, but then there's a place where somebody can go back quickly and get the answer versus pinging me, for instance.
Yes. I am smiling as you say this because I had the exact same issue, and I would get so frustrated when things fell through the cracks, because it'd be like, I'd remember like 2 weeks later, I'd be like, hey, I emailed you to do this. Like, where did it didn't happen, right? Where did that happen? Or didn't I chat you about this? Like, did that, where is that? These are the conversations I would have. And I had to, I have, the good news is it's not necessarily about checklists and chat. I have the solution for you. It is 100% of the time, you got to task them in whatever your project management system is. If that's Smartsheet, that's fine. And so some systems with that, what you can do is you can, like, I know you can do it in Monday. There's a special, like, Monday can give you an email address for a certain board where you can forward an email to that email address and it becomes an item on the board. There's some automations like that that can happen, but I had to learn, because it's natural. And I think it's, you know, even for really good VAs stuff, that it's tough when tasks come in via chat, via email, via the Monday board, or whatever your task management system is. It's tough to not have something fall through the cracks. I mean, even for me, if my husband like chats me to do something, like sometimes I see it, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I forget, right? And so I had to train myself that every task goes on my task management system. And sometimes, because I don't remember that there's like an email I can send it to go on the Monday board, I'll create the task on Monday that says like, hey, I'm going to forward you 2 emails. They're for this task, right? Like, I'll like, you know, help me research this thing that somebody emailed about, and I'll just say I'm forwarding the email, right? But everything goes on, for me, Monday, but wherever if you're Asana, if you're that Smartsheet, wherever it is, everything has to be a task there. And that way nothing falls through the cracks. And that was a change that I had to make, but it makes everything, it just makes nothing falls through the cracks, because then for me, I've got it all on there. And for them, they've got it all on there.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Now we're 1 minute to the top of the hour. I like to respect people's time. So I'm going to give a last call for any other questions. I love this conversation. It's super fun. Last call. All right, guys, then I want to appreciate everybody being here. We are going to send the recording and a follow-up with the links if you guys decide you want to take action on anything later. And I appreciate you coming. I hope this was helpful. I love teaching and helping, and I appreciate your time. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.